Hi everybody, welcome to Elevate 2024. My name is Patricia Guzman and today I'm going to talk about a successful case using PowerBuilder, transformation through migration. So let's get started. We have a disclaimer. In today's agenda, we are going to see the application called Project Tracking and Control System SCSP. We are going to see the beginning, history, evolution, current status. Furthermore, we are going to see the migration, why migrate, migration process, discontinued features, and sub-service calls and XML data retrieval with PBDOM. In our demo, we are going to use the HTTP client and the PBDOM objects, and we are going to have a section of questions and answers. A little bit about myself. I currently work at EMAPS Agua de Quito. I am a senior developer and I'm in charge of maintaining and developing applications that use PowerBuilder in the company. I used to work at Dora Sistemas. I created some training courses for new developers in PowerBuilder. And I used to work at Creative Networking Concepts, a company in the United States, in New Jersey, and I was a senior developer over there. I have been using PowerBuilder since version 6.5. I have more than 20 years of experience using PowerBuilder. As a databases, I use Oracle, SQL Server, SQL Anywhere, and I have known some Java and PL/SQL. Now let me tell you something about the company where I work. It's the Metropolitan Public Company for Drinking Water and Sanitation. This company is responsible for providing drinking water for the Metropolitan District of Quito. We have a 100 drinking water quality, 97% drinking water coverage, and 94% sewage coverage. The mission is to provide drinking water and sanitation services with efficiency and corporate social responsibility. We have executed more than 5,000 projects. As you can see in the pictures, people working in water and sanitation programs or projects is where our PowerBuilder application takes place. The application Project Tracking and Control System SCSP started when an institution called FICE needed to manage projects. So the application was an on-demand application. The application was initially developed in FoxPro. Do you remember FoxPro? With the FoxPro native DB. In the 90s, a group of developers, around 10 people, created the same application in FoxPro but using PowerBuilder version 4.5. It was a client-server application. I know that because I was part of the 10 developers. In 1996, we upgraded to version 6.5 using SQL Server 4.21. The application consists of 11 modules and work both at the headquarters and regional offices, but we have a decentralized operations. The application was updated to version 7 of PowerBuilder and SQL Server 6.5. In addition, several versions of the application were developed, which includes some improvements. EMAPS Agua de Quito in 2000 takes over the project. The application was in PowerBuilder 7 and SQL Server 6.5 through an agreement and obtained the application. The agreement was to transfer the source code and consultancy. EMAPS Agua de Quito worked on the application and customized the system for water and sewage project management. And this one started working with the logos, with the pictures, and in addition, it keeps some of the models that the original application has. The application remains as a client-server system. Several new functionalities were added based on business requirements. It was updated to PowerBuilder 9 and after that to PowerBuilder 12.5. In addition, the database was updated to SQL Server 2016. However, the project snagged for several years. Transformation. In 2023, migration plan for PowerBuilder 2022 R2 was implemented. Licensing was updated. In addition, in 2023, a successful execution of the migration plan to PowerBuilder 2022 R2 was completed in 2 months. Furthermore, in 2024, the application was also updated to PowerBuilder 2022 R3. It was completed in 1 week, and we got a very transparent migration. SQL Server database migration to 2016 to 2022 was executed too. The application currently has 8 models. The institution's departments use the different models according to their needs. The application includes 11 targets, 59 PBLs, 47 PBDs, 11 executables, and the corresponding DLLs. That was about the application. Now let's talk about the migration. Why migrate? The performance improvement. We have optimizations in the execution engine. Compatibility. Compatible with the latest versions of Windows, databases, and the ability to compile 64-bit executables. In addition, security. Updated applications provide greater security, protecting against attacks. As a requirement from the security department in our institution. We have to upgrade the applications that we have to the latest versions available. Integration also. With the modern technologies such as RESTful APIs, JSON, XML, and web services. And technical support. It is important to receive technical support to fix bugs and correct errors that we receive long-term support as well. Now, what the migration process involves? We have several steps that we should take. The first one, environment preparation. As we know, we have to review system, software, and database requirements. We need to identify components and options for the update. We need to be sure that the system meets installation requirements. System requirements, we can use the installation guide provided by Appium. Furthermore, identify the required software requirements, as well as we can use the installation guide provided by Appium. And we can also check the database compatibility. It is important to be sure that the version of the database is supported by the current version of PowerBuilder. Step 2, we need to remember to get backups. But before getting the backups, we need to be sure that any PBLs to be updated have been regenerated without errors in their current version of PowerBuilder before creating a backup. It is because we need to avoid corrupted PBLs and PBTs. In addition, make a backup of files created in previous version of PowerBuilder, like PBLs and PBTs, and also to get a backup of any files that contain information you do not want to lose, such as database files, any files. For example, we can import connect profiles and etc. One thing that we have to remember is that the migration is one-way operation with no rollback. That is why I emphasize of this part that we have to get the backups. Step 3. Connection profiles verification. Create the corresponding connection profiles before proceeding with the upgrade to verify that we can connect to our database from PowerBuilder without any errors. Migrate the PBLs from version 12.5 to PowerBuilder 2022 R2. I did that in my case, but if you have any version of PowerBuilder that you want to migrate, if you open your application in a newer version, you will be asked if you want to migrate all the libraries. And also, it will remind you that you should get a backup of your application. Step 4. Obsolete and discontinued features. We have to review all the discontinued features and check for obsolete features with the help of the Migrator Assistant. This is a very good tool. For example, in our case, we found these two, the workup new power script method and try catch new reserve syntax. And also I remember that we got the save as Excel also, so we fixed all of them with the help of the documentation and the report with the Migrator Assistant, as you can see here. Another obsolete and discontinued features. We use HTTP client to call sub web services. So we found that that information in the Appium community called sub web services using HTTP client object, and in the documentation of Appium removing easy sub and sub clients to do that. So we used to work in this way. So we use a sub proxy, and after that we the Migrator Assistant show us that we need to use HTTP client to call the sub web service instead, and we work it in that part. The step number 5 is build. We need to perform a full build optimization of the PBLs to prevent any corruption. So we need to be sure that everything was built correctly and we don't have any errors. Step number 6, testing. Test, test, and test again from the beginning to the end of the application to ensure everything is working correctly, even though it takes time, but it is necessary to test. Runtime DLLs, we have to remember that the applications built using any version of PowerBuilder must be deployed with the runtime DLLs of the same PowerBuilder version. Resources. The resources that we can use are Appium Migration Guide, we can use it also Migrator Assistant, so we can see through this tool the obsolete and discontinued features as we saw before, and the Appium community. Appium community is a huge help in this site to solve the issues. Now regarding the update from PowerBuilder 12.5, the web service process update sub web service connection using HTTP client. So we call the sub web service using HTTP client object, and we set request header using HTTP client. So instead of using this proxy sub as before, we use the HTTP client object and we set the request headers according to the information in the web service. Okay, now in HTTP client object we set the headers, footer data, and the URL. Post data using send request and verify the response with get response status code. In addition, we perform operations with the obtain response. So as you can see here, we set the header and we put in a variable with all the information that we got from the web service, and also we set another variable to the footer. We set a variable for the URL and keep all the information that we send to the web service. In addition, we use the function send request with the method post, and we also verify the response with the get response status code and the get response status text. This one has to be a status code, has to be equal to 200 in order to proceed. If everything is okay, we continue with the operations. We have to remember that all the information we need to put inside a try-catch block. Now regarding XML data retrieval using PBDOM object, we can manipulate the XML data that we receive after calling the HTTP client object. We can do that using two ways. The first one is to add the PBX file, or we can use also the PBDOM PBD. In addition, we can declare all the elements that we are going to use in order to manage that data. Okay. For example, we can use the functions getName get text in order to get all the items or the values we have in that data that we receive. In addition, we can use a structure in order to put all the information that we receive, and we can put that information in the structure. Depends on what we need to do. And finally, we have to destroy all the objects that we use. In this case, we destroy the object HTTP client as well as the object PBDOM that we use in our application in order to clean our memory. So in the next demo, I'm going to use the HTTP client in order to call a SOAP web service, and I'm going to use the PBDOM object in order to manipulate and work with the XML data that I receive from the web service. So let's go to PowerBuilder and do that demo. Okay, now in PowerBuilder I created a very simple window. From here we are going to call the SOAP web service and get the customer information using HTTP client and work with the data retrieved from the PBDOM object. To get the data, we are going to enter an ID and we are going to use it as a parameter to get the data. And the data will be displayed here in the data window. It's an external data window. To do that, I created a function. Let's go to the function here, open it, and the first thing that I did was to use the HTTP client. It means declare and create the object. The HTTP client object is a base object for sending HTTP requests and receiving HTTP responses from a resource identified by a URL. Remember, when we create an object, after finishing use it, we must destroy it. Okay? So, the second part that I did was to work with the PBDOM classes. But first, what is PBDOM? PBDOM is the PowerBuilder implementation of the Document Object Model, DOM, a programming interface defining the means by which XML documents can be accessed and manipulated. The PBDOM PowerBuilder API can be used for reading, writing, and manipulating a standard format XML from within PowerScript code. That is why we are going to use it in our demo. We are going to read the XML data retrieved from our SOAP web service. So, in order to use PBDOM classes here, like this part, we need to know that they are implemented in a DLL file with the suffix PBX. The simplest way to add the PBDOM classes to a PowerBuilder target is to import the object descriptions in the PBDOM PBX file into a library in the PowerBuilder system tree. So, in order to do that, we are going to the system tree, we are going to expand our target, and we right click on the library. So here, we are going to right click and choose the option import PB extension. Okay. Now we need to locate where our PowerBuilder was installed. So let me go through. I'm going to Program Files, choose Appium, and we are going to use Common and PowerBuilder and the runtime. In this case, the latest one is this one that I'm using. And here I'm going to look for the PBX file. It's over here and we are clicking Open. As you can see here in the system tree, we now have all the PBDOM classes and we can expand them and see the properties, its events, functions, structures, etc. And the good thing is that we just drag and drop them in our code and we can work with them. Okay, so let me just delete this one. The second way that we can use PBDOM objects is we can add the PBDOM.pbd file. So in order to do that, we can use, let me just close the customers. Let me save it and close it. Okay, after that we can right click on the target and go to properties, and we can add the PBD file. In this case, the location is, let's go to C, program files again, and we go to Appium. Now we choose PowerBuilder 22 IDE, and here we, instead of PBL, we choose PBD file, and we can click here and open it. So apply, OK, and now we have the PBDOM 220.pbd. So here we have the same thing, all the classes of the PBDOM, the same as we have here with the PBX. See, we can use any of them, that both of them are fine to be used in our application. So because we have already the PBX here, we only just remove this one. So let me just go and remove it. So let's click here. Okay, so now just let me open our window and continue. Getting back to our function, let me open it, and then after we created the two objects, the HTTP client and the PBDOM, we need to set the request header to the SOAP web service call. We keep the same information as we have in the SOAP web service, like this one. So for example, we are going to set the content type, accept encoding, connection, SOAP action, the same way as we have in the web service. Okay, but now using the HTTP client. Okay, after that we can set the values of header and footer in some variables. So we can set that one, and in addition we can get the ID taken from the single line edit and added this one as a part of the body, because we are sending a parameter as a parameter. Okay, after that we need a URL in order to request the customer data from the SOAP web service. That's why we are going to put the URL here in a variable. Okay, once we have that value, we can compose with the elements in header, body and footer in one variable. This one is the XML variable that we are going to send in our send request. So once we have all these values, we call in the SOAP web service using send request function with the method post. So we are going to send in this send request the URL that we have here and the LX XML envío, which is all the information that we composed before. So after that we have to control the response that we are going to get from this request. So we get the response status code and also the status text. So we know that when the response is equals to 200, it means that everything goes okay and we can continue. But we need to verify also the value in send request. So send request has to be equals to 1 and the response status code has to be 200. So if these values are okay, so we can get the response body. It means the data that we get from the web service. Okay, so after that we have this part verified and we got the response body, we need to create the PBDOM builder. PBDOM builder class serves as a DOM factory that creates a PBDOM document from various input sources such as string or data store. In our case, we are going to use the string. So once we have this part, we need to put our code, the following code, inside a try catch block. It is because we need to control all the exceptions in the case that we have any errors and manage those in order to avoid that our application closes. Once we have the PBDOM builder, we need to get the PBDOM document. So in this case, we have to generate the PBDOM document from the XML response, the value that we have in this variable, as you can see. And in order to do that, we have to use the method build from a string. So once we have this value, we continue, and we are going to use the PBDOM element. And the PBDOM element represents an XML element modeled in PowerScript. So we go through all the XML elements and set the values for root, body, response, result, and LST customer. So we use the functions, the methods get root element and get child element in order to get the values and put in our variables. So after that, we obtain an array of the PBDOM object. So in this case, we use the method getContent, and we set as a reference our PBDOM object. So now here we are going to have our array. So now we need to get the upper bound of the array. So we control that, and after that, with the method getChildElement, we are going to get the number of the attributes in our object. Okay, so we verify how many records we got. In the case that we don't have any, we can set a message saying that there is no data, so we can try again. And in the case that we get only one record, we can use the getChildElement in order to fill our structure with the corresponding values. In this case, for example, getChildElement returns the first child PBDOM element object, matching the name indicated by the method parameter that is contained in the PBDOM element object from which the method is invoked. So for example, in this case, we are using getChildElement, and this is the name of the element, and here we are matching every single of them, as you can see here, with the function getText. So we go through one by one and get the values and put them in our structure, see, with the corresponding values. So we use the getText function. Okay, so this is in the case that we have one record. So, but what happens if we get more than one record? In that case, we need to use a function, and this function has to be a recursive function. So we are going to send these parameters. This one especially is as a reference because we are going to get, after calling the function, we are going to get our structure filled with the data that we retrieve from the web service. So let's go to this function and see what it does. So let me go, and is this one. So let me show you the parameters. As I told you before, we send this parameter, which is the PBDOM object. We use as a reference the structure, and we send an index. So okay, we declare two arrays as a PBDOM object. So, and as we did before, we get the content of that one, the object, in this array. Why we use arrays? Because we have multiple data. Okay, now we have to loop through content for each content and get its content. So now we verify the upper bound of the array and go through. So we got the class with the getObject class string. So we verify if the class is a PBDOM element, and after that we are going to get the name in ls item, and we are going to get the value with using the getText function. So we go through all the items and verify if they are corresponding with the values that we need to get. in this case all of them, and putting directly or feeding directly to our structure that we send as a reference. We increase the index +1, and after that we calling again the same function. That's why I told you it was a recursive function. So all of this until all the data was included in our structure. So this is how it works. So now let me go back to our function from we were calling, and once we get the information, we can feed our data window with the information that we have in our structure. So in the case that something wrong happens, we can manage the exceptions, okay, and after that we can destroy the object that we are using for PBDOM object. So now we can see how it works. So let's run it. So now we have our window. I set an ID, and we are going to call our web service. As you can see, we can get immediately the value of our customers. It's just, in this case, it's only one customer because of the ID. What happens, for example, if I don't send any ID, so I can get all of them, all of the customers. As you can see, I can get the information of all of them. How about if I want to get the information of this one specific? So we can just here copy the ID and send the request again. So as you can see, I can get a specific customer as well as all the customers that we have in our web service. So in this case, we can see that the HTTP client is working as well as the PBDOM object with the XML data retrieved from our web service. So let's go back to PowerBuilder. So with this demo, you were able to see the use of HTTP client in order to call a sub web service, and also use the PBDOM object in order to read the information or work with the XML data that was retrieved from the sub web service. So now let's go back to our presentation. Okay, continuing to the presentation, now we are going to see the update from PowerBuilder 2022 R2 to PowerBuilder 2022 R3. So we got the backups, we verify the connection profiles, and also we update the pb.ini file for the future accessibility handling. Also, we perform a full build of the libraries, and we did the final testing. We got as a result a successful and very transparent migration with a very short time. We only took like 2 weeks to do that. So as I told you before, we check this feature in the pb.ini file, so in order to verify that everything was okay. So we didn't do any major changes to our application, and as I told you, we spent a little bit of time. As conclusions, we can say, by using PowerBuilder, we can have long-lasting and reliable applications. In addition, the original client-server architecture remains solid and scalable. Also, when we use clean coding, it means following the standards, and a tool like PowerBuilder, we enable a successful and transparent migration. Furthermore, the changes made during the migration validate PowerBuilder's flexibility and adaptability. Also, we got a quick and efficient migration. The investment in PowerBuilder remains relevant and cost-efficient after nearly 30 years. So, we started here from a FoxPro application, and now we have a client-server application with the latest version of PowerBuilder. This tool gives our engineers in the institution the facility to control the projects in the institution. So, There is still much more to improve. We need to update the menus using the ribbon bar control, use the themes, and incorporate the PDFs in order to get and create reports. But we are working on that. So this is the successful case using PowerBuilder, the migration from 12.5 to 22R2. So don't forget to connect us in Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Thank you for watching. Now it's time to questions and answers.